Now, I would like to request Mr. Prakash Mallya. He's the Managing Director of Intel Sales and Marketing Group on stage for his keynote address. Prakash has been the Managing Director of Southeast Asia at Intel prior to this, where he led all of Intel's sales, marketing, and the enablement of Intel products across Southeast Asia. Under his stewardship, his group won the Global Award for Exemplary Leadership in Ethics and Compliance as well. Over the years, he has held several regional roles, including leading Intel's Asia-Pacific strategy to win the manufacturing, oil and gas verticals, and as well as managing strategic global customer and partner relationships. So welcome, Prakash, on stage for your keynote.
Can you guys hear me all right? Okay. Thank you very much for having me. It's an honor to be here. In fact, I was involved in TIE Singapore. I spent 12 years of my life outside of the country, came back April last year, and a couple of years I was in TIE Singapore chapter, engaging with the industry over there. And the second thing I noticed, which was a pleasant surprise to me, was Dr. Mitta in the audience. I started my career in Wipro, and I have really fond memories of the company. In fact, today is the day when I meet two luminaries from Wipro, one Dr. Mitta, and later in the day, Mr. Suta as well. So it's a real pleasure to meet both of them. We've learned a lot from the organizations. When I started my career across the software industry, there was a revolution happening, and the revolution was led by Wipro, Infosys, TCS, and you see where the industry is today from a software standpoint. There is a tremendous opportunity for the country to go drive the conversation further, not only in software, but also software-led solutions, combining hardware technologies with it. And that really is the context of the next 30 minutes or so, where I would touch on three things. One, the opportunity for data, because when you look at IoT, the way I look at IoT solutions is, what does data and insights do for a solution to solve a business problem? So that would be the first articulation I would provide on a global context. The second would be, how do we see the opportunity from an Indian vantage point? Is it the same? Is it different? And what are the differences or similarities? And last but not the least, the third part of the conversation is, what is Intel doing to enable that opportunity? Because we have been, we are celebrating 50 years as a company. We are 50 years young, and we are 20 years in the country. And in that 20 years, we have built the largest design center outside of the United States. So it is a great testament to the leadership, the capability, the talent that exists in the country for us to be able to ramp to that level of expertise. And we would like to use that expertise to really improve the industry ecosystem capability. And it was very nicely articulated in the opening session as well by Anil, that together we can make a difference as an industry ecosystem, because singularly, individual companies can't make or move the needle as much as collectively in the industry. Working together, we can. Okay? So the first part of this conversation, I don't know whether you know this, but let me lay this out for you. 98% of the data that humanity created was created in the last 2 years. And in the next 10 years, that data is going to accelerate 10 times. So 98% in the last 2 years, 10x that data in the next 10 years. And the most important point of this entire argument is, only less than 1% of that data has been analyzed today. And the reason why the analytics is so low is a variety of reasons. One, the data does not exist where you want it to be. It's in silos. You don't know where the data is. You also don't know what to analyze or what to discard. Then there are standards on legacy systems which can't talk interoperably with the newer systems, so on and so forth. So challenges remain. But that being said, the capability that exists within any organization to analyze data that already exists within their company is tremendous. And the second part of that, moving on, is how does IoT solutions shape? You're starting to see IoT solutions making a difference in the way we transform work as well as how we live, whether it is connecting people and technology to create great solutions on medical or healthcare. And you see that starting to happen through startups in India as well as globally. Or whether you're talking industrial automation and how do you transform reducing cost or sensing defects earlier using IoT technologies, and many other verticals like that. Now, the real case in point here is when you look at every industry solutions and the connected technologies impacting the way we transform work and life is going to accelerate because of capabilities of these solutions rising. And the moot point being, irrespective of the amount of data that is getting churned in these IoT solutions, a fraction of it, less than 1% of it is analyzed. So if you can drive analytics harder on the solutions with the data that is existing today, the value for the solutions can go manifold. And we are just beginning that journey. Yes, there are solutions in IoT, but the opportunity for the industry to create business impact by analyzing data that already exists is tremendous. And when you look at let me double click on how the IoT solutions is getting deployed versus how it would get deployed in the coming future. And that's the crux of the argument. Every time we come and talk as an industry, we should have a point of view on where the world is headed and how you should reshape your strategy as a startup or organization or academic institution towards those solutions and technologies which are going to become the norm in the near future. And when you look at IoT solutions, the real challenge would be the amount of, again, data. And when you look at that argument, the more you look at IoT solutions that can compute, process, analyze, store data at the edge rather than throwing it back to the cloud would be the stronger solutions moving forward. And that's why the edge compute, and I know the conference theme is also edge compute. The reality is that the computing at the edge would become far more important. The capabilities of the hardware systems at the edge to do just that in a robust manner is going to become absolutely important. Of course, it wouldn't need every single time the highest end CPU, highest end GPU, or variants of it, but it would need low power. Most importantly, it need far higher processing capabilities that exist today in the IoT solution, which is very low-end edge devices and relying more on cloud and data centers. Moving forward, you would need a thick edge and a cloud data center as well. Let me give you a few examples. When you look at video and video-related workloads, you would like to analyze and take action based on camera input right at the edge faster because there is no time to detect and respond to a crime after you throw it back to the cloud or data center and then respond with the inaction. Similarly, for autonomous driving, a usage model that will evolve and become a norm over the next 5-10 years, it again requires a thick edge, computing real time, and throwing back insights. Similarly for industrial and manufacturing, similarly for transportation in general, similarly for many other verticals like even healthcare. So the reality is, and the research data shows that as well, in no uncertain terms, in the next 2 or 3 years, more than 45% of the solutions in IoT would have very thick, capable edge to be able to analyze, process, store, and drive insights right at the edge. And when you look at the global landscape, which I laid out for you, the data analytics being low, you have a lot of opportunity getting driven out of IoT, and the edge compute become important. How does the story unfold or unfolding in India? And suffice to say, we are a growing economy. We have demonstrated very strong growth in the last 5-7 years, consistently. We are the 6th largest economy today. Now, how does it convert itself into transformation which is being driven or going to be driven by technology? And I lay it out in 3 different vectors. One of it is digitization. Make no mistake, India is probably the only country where government has really used technology to leapfrog the nation. You see that in Aadhaar, You see that in GST, you see that in digital payments, you see that everywhere else. And smart city and all of those solutions will just keep that data acceleration story going even further. Not only that, when you look at the network and connectivity piece of the puzzle in the country, we have in the last 18 months or so gone from being 155th in mobile data consumption to being number 1. And what has that meant? That has meant that the revolution in computing at the edge using better connectivity would mean newer solutions and newer experiences across every vertical. And that's why the startups and capability to disrupt the country with solutions is second to none today. So that I treated as a digitization acceleration. The second piece of the puzzle is what capabilities do we bring to bear? I started my session by saying we have always been known for software, and that's still true. We are one of the youngest population in the country. We have the third largest footprint of AI startups in the world, outside of US and China. And given the fact that we are the second largest developer ecosystem, also the fact that we are a very young population means that we can fuel the talent pipe, not only for today, but even for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years, provided we do skill building, provided we take the right steps, both from a policy point of view as well as industry point of view to go drive the engine further. Because it's not going to be only about software, it needs to be software and hardware combined to build solutions that disrupt the marketplace. And last but not the least, and this is the most interesting in my opinion, is given that we are young, given that we have digitized or digitizing in a fast manner, and given that we have high friction segments, think about when we live, or we've all grown up here for the last few decades, think about the high friction segments that exist. Almost many are waiting to get disrupted. You think about education, you think about healthcare, you think about agriculture, transportation. Every one of them requires technology at scale to really disrupt. And last week, I had the privilege, along with a bunch of folks at Intel, to listen to Nandan. And he came over to talk about how technology at scale can truly transform the country. And he gave 3 examples that he personally led. One was Aadhaar. We all know Aadhaar. What happened, right? Their target was 300 million. We are sitting at over 1 billion digitized IDs. Never in the country it has happened any place in the world. Second, he talked about GST. 11 million GSTs, SMEs registered on the site and getting automated or already automated in terms of solution. Third, UPI and how digital payments is really transforming every commercial transaction potentially that could happen in the future. So these are all solutions that were built small, that were very simplistic. He talked about how simplicity can, or minimalism can create just a groundswell on adoption. And that's the same mentality I think we should bring to everything or solutions that we really think about as startups to disrupt an incumbent industry. Every industry is ripe, in my opinion, for technology-led disruption, but technology built at scale. And there are some startups where already, especially the aggregation startups, starting to get to that momentum and getting to that scale. And the second part of my dialogue, I talked about how globally we see the world unfold, how we see the world unfold in India. Now, the key moot point here would be, what is Intel doing about it to really fuel the momentum globally as well as in this country? And what you see here is what we talk about as virtuous cycle of growth, or our company strategy on a page. We envision a world in not so distant future where billions of devices are connected to very high quality networks like 5G. 5G is one of our biggest investments over multiple years. We would continue to do so, both on the network transformation as well as on the edge device. And when you look at that strategy, that strategy is predicated on a few things. Number one, you have to unfold or transform the data center or the cloud piece of the ecosystem. And that's why most of our innovation is oriented towards moving data faster, so there is tremendous amount of investments going into storage, process everything faster, so you've got general purpose workload oriented solutions like Xeons, or specific workload solutions like FPGAs, or vision accelerators like Movidius. Then last but not the least is how do I process everything in context of the workload? And that's where you drive connectivity and make that connectivity work for you. So the 5G means 1,000 times higher performance than the current generation network. That means 1 billion or multiple billions of devices. And that's why the edge compute becomes very, very interesting for us. So going back to the earlier comment of edge and IoT solutions becoming more robust at the edge, this solution or the strategy or the evolution of our footprint would mean that we would drive more capabilities to the edge based on our roadmap and platforms to ensure that partners or solution providers like yourself can build those capabilities into your architectures or solutions. And double click on that strategy and talk about specifically IoT, what do we bring to bear? And at the highest level, one of the workloads we are seeing globally, as well as in India accelerate, is video and a visual-oriented workload. Think about every industry segment. There's a lot of video data, but most of that video data, going back to the first argument I made, is hardly analyzed because there is a ton of it. And that's why when you look at the platform and technologies that we offer, of course, there is a comprehensive portfolio. It's oriented towards general purpose workload or specific workloads like FPGA-driven, very low latency edge solutions to vision-oriented, Movidius being a great example. OpenVINO as a software kit being another great example, which technology providers, partners, or startups could use to build solutions. And when you look at Intel, Intel not only is oriented towards building hardware, because we have done that for 50 years. We are more oriented towards providing solutions and platforms that makes your development cycle go faster. And that's the piece that is mentioned in software tools and technologies. The software toolkit of OpenVINO is a fantastic example where you can build solutions faster by using some of these tools. And there are many other tools that exist when you can deal with performance bottlenecks, when you can tune your system capabilities to operate at a higher level. How do I increase or reduce the latency or increase the performance? All of those tools exist. And ultimately, on top of that, we provide reference designs. We provide software libraries. We provide mentoring or advising the solution providers in our ecosystem to build those solutions in the fastest possible time. So you've got great architecture solutions. You've got great platforms, reference architectures as well, along with us in the industry ecosystem to leverage on so that you invest your time and effort to really build and do what you are truly good at, as in disrupting the market segment that you are in and building the best possible solution versus your competitors to go make that happen. And there are many use cases specifically to IoT based on that premise that I talked about on our portfolio that we can bring to bear. And this is, we all talked about AI, analytics, at the edge compute becoming important. And these are some of the use cases, and it spans multiple verticals that we already have built globally as well as in India. Let me explain. In terms of industrial, defect monitoring using visual technologies, using vision accelerator products is a great example of that. When you look at smart cities, again, going back to the camera feed and the video data that is coming through, and with the vision accelerator, how do I do real-time analytics to drive insights to make decision-making go faster? Again, another example. In retail, you can actually look at and customize the promotions or advertising that you do in different parts of the country. Think about in India, there is a variety. It's not a single consumer that you're dealing with. It's multiple consumers in multiple cities in multiple states. So how do I customize it? Again, with vision solutions, you can go make that happen in retail. And use cases exist there. Last but not the least, healthcare. How do I analyze an image and make that diagnosis go faster? Great solutions that some of the startups have already started building in India. And you can actually leverage on some of these capabilities or use cases that we have to build or scale yours. Now, out of all of these solutions, the one thing that I would like to really contextualize from an India point of view is when you look at India, which multiple states, 1.3 billion population, the most interesting aspect of data science to me for this country is that though we have 22 scheduled languages, we have over 760 spoken languages. We have 83 different scripts in this country. And when you combine all of that, and you provide a unique solution for all our consumers and businesses, it is a massive data science opportunity for the industry. And combined with the fact that you can go drive analytics at the edge and deliver solutions or insights in real time to disrupt industries using that data is an opportunity that exists only in this country across the entire world. And the complication or the complexity of these solutions would mean that if you have been able to build technology solutions at scale in this country, you can absolutely scale globally. There is no reason to believe that the same model that you build for the country in India will not scale globally, because this is the most complex solution. Think about our transportation industry. Have you seen traffic go any worse in most parts of the world? Yes, Egypt, I agree. Indonesia, I agree. But outside of that, there are very few countries you would see traffic complexity like in India. And similarly for healthcare, similarly for agriculture. So the level of complexity is high, so your capabilities and solutions that you bring to bear to address that complexity will go a long way in you being scalable outside the country. And that's where I would end with. The opportunity of data is second to none. We have only 1% of that data analyzed globally. It is no different in India. Secondly, India is at a very, very interesting place, in my opinion, in terms of just true horsepower. We have digitization that is happening at a pace never seen before. There is talent and industry capabilities like the ones in the room really fueling or leveraging on that capability. And last but not the least, there are verticals yet to be disrupted using technology at scale solutions. So we, like I mentioned, as Intel, 50 years as a company, 20 years in the country, we are absolutely committed to making you successful as an industry ecosystem and making us successful as a consequence. And last but not the least is get engaged. There is a lot of data and a lot of use cases on our website. And if you need help, if you need deeper engagement, we would love to engage with you to make this collaboration fructify in a way that makes sense to you, drives more business for you, as well as for us. Thank you very much.
Prakash, I would request you back on stage just for a... Please be on stage. I would request Anil to come on stage and give a token memento to Prakash, please. So thanks Prakash. It was heartening to know, and we are already seeing this in our IoT directory and so forth. A plethora of use cases, a number of different verticals along industrial, healthcare, retail, the startups operating out of India in multiple sectors. The interesting aspect, everybody globally, many of the startups, even from Silicon Valley, are looking at India. You know what? Primarily for the data. We as Indians, we are generating tremendous amount of data, and this is our prerogative. Our, history will look back at us and essentially say, guys, a bunch of AI, ML, IoT technologies sitting out here. You guys have an opportunity now troves of data around healthcare across Aadhaar and multiple other aspects, what we're going to be doing about it, right? So please think through that. And from IoT Forum, from IoT, from ISA, from TIE, we are here to help.